Moro moro, and welcome back to culinary role-playing and into how it plays, where today we are taking a look at FantasyAGE 2nd edition. FantasyAGE is a system that I didn't have my eye on it, if I'm being honest. I borrowed the 1st edition book from my friend and I kind of read through it, where I really enjoyed the idea of the age system, the adventure game engine, which is basically like the core system that the game uses, and there is also different rules settings using the age system as well. There is modern age, I think, and then there is also the Expanse, which uses the Expanse license. So yeah, I read the first version and there were few things that I didn't like. One of them being HP bloat. This system uses levels and I'm not a levels person like on general. And it has levels from 1 to 20, and like in any other level-based game you usually tend to have quite a lot of health from each level. And for example, a warrior class who starts with about 30 health will end up having like over 100 HP, which is, the scale is quite huge, maybe too big. And while it had this kind of idea of class and specialization to give a little bit more distinction between people who are the same class, there was like just some aspects missing, like the whole system was missing in every aspect a little bit. But now, with the 2nd edition of the game, and even calling it 2nd edition is kind of stretch. It's basically it's like 1.5 edition of FantasyAGE. But with the new additions that has been included now into the game, it is a way better game, let me tell you. And I have to say, now with the stunt mechanics and with the new included rules, this game, if you want to play a heroic fantasy game solo, I think this is a very good contender now. So hit that like and subscribe to the channel, and let's dive in and see what makes this game so good in solo. So for people who are not familiar with adventure game engine, this system uses 3d6, and 2 of these d6s should be of the same color and 1 of the dice should be of different color. Or if I'm being honest, you could have 3 of different color, but you just have to be able to distinguish 1 dice from the rest, because this will be your stunt die. But the core system, really simple. You simply take 1 stat that is being tested, you take 3d6, you roll them, add them together, and also add your stat, and you try to beat a DC. And the average difficulty class is 11, and there it goes down and up by 2. So average would be 11, easy would be 9, very simple would be 7, yes. And then of course you go up, 13 is hard and 15 is like really difficult. But what is unique for Age engine and why you need that 1 different dice? So whenever you attempt different actions in the game or do different attacks, you have the possibility to do stunts. And stunts are these extra spices and flourishes and additional benefits that can really flavor your actions and help you narrate interesting dynamics happening within the scene. The stunt system is excellent for different people who really want to spice up the combat and gives the players and enemies some additional options that they can try to turn the tides within the battle. Taking example like 5th edition, Pathfinder, any other tactical combat game, most often you are soft punished in a sense that if you try to do something extra or something fancy or something that doesn't involve you using your maximized damaged weapon, it basically means that you are wasting your turn. And that is a thing that can really snuff out any improvisation or creativity from the combat, unless GM is actively trying to encourage people to do something. And even though we are not all these kind of theater kids who can come up with very clever plans, disregarding any rules. So what combat stunts does really well, it also gives options to people who like to play a little bit more into the rules, and also gives them very viable options. Because what stunts are, they are basically like soft crits. And what I mean by that, whenever you roll your 3d6, so I could have 2 red dice showing 5-5, but it wouldn't matter if I would have 1 black die being 5 and 1 red die. Only thing that matters that 2 of your dice, any dice, show the same number. This means you can also involve stunts in your action, and you can do different stunts by using stunt points. And now that's why we have the stunt die, because the stunt die always shows you how many stunt points that action has. And there's like many different combat stunts. There is, for example, you can just give more damage to yourself. You could take defensive stance that gives you more defense for until your next turn. You could pierce the enemy's armor, so you could ignore all the armor and just directly deal damage to the enemy. Or you could even move yourself and the target to different directions. So for example, if your party thief is trying to pick a lock during combat, an enemy is closing in into this thief, the party's warrior could easily go and make an attack, hit the enemy, deal damage, and in additionally make a stunt where the warrior will pull the enemy back. So what is really nice that it doesn't penalize you for making something creative. You can do your attack, you can do your damage, and in addition to that you can do something cool. But what is really cool with this system is that also enemies will use stunts, and it is not only for combat. You have your basic exploration stunts. You can do an action so well that you get some kind of extra benefit. You could make so good investigation that you get some extra insight. What is really cool, the game tells you that you have to make it narratively sense that you can use that stunt in that moment. So you just can't pick and choose, or well, you can basically pick and choose anything you want, but you then have to narrate it into the fiction of how do you do that. So it encourages all the players to really narrate different combat situations and have these different benefits from different action roles. And this is of course really interesting and cool mechanic to solo with. So you don't have just binary yes and no. You can have basically this yes and gain other additional benefits. And you could make it even so that when you roll a double once, I actually rolled double once, great. If I rolled double once, then GM, or as a solo player yourself, you could use this one stunt point and take an aspect that could hinder the character that failed that task. So it could work in both ways and give these really different narrative aspects. And you also have social stunts, and also all the classes have their own stunts as well, and then some specializations and special talents also might contain extra stunts. So really nifty system. They also upped the character creation a little bit. While still being very simple, it has now a little bit more distinction between characters, so I think it's quite nice. As an individual who prefers skill-based systems, I think this is a very neat system. So we have our 4 core classes. We have Envoy, which is basically your diplomat, your talker, your leader. We have Mage, your wizard, your warlock, but also your priests. And we have Rogue, your thieves, your assassins, your acrobats, and then we have Warrior, your fighter, your paladin, your barbarian. So yeah, basically you have these 4 base classes, and then you also pick a specialization, which are your assassins, your bards, your diplomats, your mages, your druids. So the base 4 classes really have some variation from the beginning. And you further individualize your character with different talents, your background, and also with your kin, which is called ancestry in this game. Ancestry gives you 2 random benefits from your ancestry, which is really nice. So this makes it really unlikely, even if all the characters in your party would be of the same ancestry, they would still have like very different benefits, which makes it like that all the characters are more unique, even on just base ancestry level. Okay, next let's take a look-see of our example characters, Takino and Valanor. Of course, our returning heroes from our How It Plays demo series. And I think let's take a deeper look of Valanor again, because Valanor has some spells, so we can get that aspect as well. We have our character's name, we have our social class, and Valanor is high class, and also the background was apprentice, and the class is mage level 1. Speed and defense, this is the number that people are trying to roll over when they are trying to hit you. You also have armor in this game, which is damage reduction, which is really good. I love that armor works that way. Here is our health, but we are using one optional rule, which is called fortune, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Otherwise, this system uses attributes a little bit differently. So we actually have quite many basic attributes, because we have 9 different basic attributes. We have accuracy, communication, constitution, dexterity, fighting, intelligence, perception, strength, and willpower. And these are the 9 attributes and aspects that we will test during the adventure. But then you can have focuses, and focuses are basically like your skill specializations. These are individual aspects that you are really good at within that specific attribute. For example, we have arcane law, focus on intelligence, and we also have seeing, focus in perception. And having a focus just simply means if the action intended includes your focus or any of your focuses, you can add +2 into that roll, in addition to your base attribute. So if I would make an intelligence-based check where my arcane law would come into use, then it would be 3 + 2, so I could add +5 into my roll. Then here we have melee weapons. Valanor doesn't have any melee weapons, but what Valanor has is Arcane Blast. So Arcane Blast is like basic mage ability that every mage has. So it is just an attack and ability that you can use all of the time whenever you need to. And the different attributes works quite differently when using different weapons. For example, Arcane Blasts, like many other ranged weapons, uses accuracy. If you want to use bows, then you would use accuracy to hit rolls, and you would get your damage addition into that roll from perception. Where is it? Here. So if I would fire a bow with Valanor, that would mean I would roll with +3 to see if I hit. And if I would make damage, I think bow was d6. So then I would roll a d6 +1 because of the perception. And with heavier melee weapons, to hit would be fighting, and you would get your damage from the strength. So you can't just dump all your stats on fighting and be like, okay, now I can destroy everything and anything. And here we just have different talents. So we have Arcane Device, which is basically like our staff or wand. So as a mage, we also can start with 2 different spell laws. They are not called spell laws in this game. They are just called arcanas, different arcanas. This game really doesn't distinguish between like arcane and holy magic. It contains different flavors for both, but basically both ways of magic uses the same spells. So you could have a Beast Arcana wizard, but you could also have a Beast Arcana a cleric. And I think that's really neat. I really don't feel like there needs to be a distinction between these. The more variable options player has, the better. But yeah, you can start with 2 different arcanas and have 2 novice spells from both. So of course, because Valanor is a frost mage, we have our cold arcana spells, But then I also added some mind arcana spells, because we know also that Valanor is like this happy-go-lucky person, but also they are really good at like smooth talking. So I thought that it would be interesting that Valanor would be able to read people's minds as well, to an extent. Spellcasting really simple. You use an action during combat or in your free time. The game uses magic points, so you have a certain amount of magic points that you can use. Different spells cost different amount of magic points, and then there is target number that you have to roll basically to succeed in that spell. What is really cool is that spells also have their own stunts. So you could have a powerful casting, which makes it more difficult to resist. You could have a skillful casting that it's much more cheaper for you to cast the spell. And there is also fast casting. You can cast another spell. That's crazy. So yeah, really, it's basically like from Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons meta magic basically. But it's just a thing that everyone can do, which is, it's so nice. So my biggest gripe with this system in the first edition was the HP creep, like that the heroes and the enemies will be just a sack of hit points, and the high level combat would take eternities to be resolved. So I have solved this problem for myself using one optional rule from this new second edition book and one custom rule that I made myself. So let's start with the fortune. Fortune is an optional rule for FantasyAGE, which transforms your health and HP into different kind of HP. So it basically still effectively functions as a hit points. So whenever you take damage, you will lose points from your fortune pool. But what is really interesting is that your fortune is also just that. It is points of luck that you can also change and affect your rolls with. So basically, I could decide when I roll the dice, and I would get maybe, well, I got one, this is actually a perfect example. I got 1, 4, and 5. So if I would want to be like, I want this one to be 4 as well. So then I would probably hit and get also 5 stunt points. So I could actually pay 4 points of health to make this dice a 4. You can also affect your stunt die, but it will cost twice the amount of HP. I mean fortune, I'm sorry. And you can only change 1 dice per roll. So you can't use fortune points to change all of the dice. But what the system also introduces with fortune is injured and wounded. So what these two conditions are, basically whenever the character's fortune would go under 0 and into the negatives. Like for example, if I would had 3 fortune left and I would now take 6 damage and I wouldn't have any armor. We reduce from that 6 damage our 3 fortune points. Now we would be at 0. Then it would go into -3. And if we don't have any injured or wounded conditions, I would now decide to take injured condition. This allows me to roll an extra d6 and try to beat that -3. And I rolled a 5. If I would roll now a 5, I would be still in action. I would be at 0 fortune. And now I would have the injured condition, which means I have -1 to everything. And now in this case, if I would have rolled like 2, then there would be still -1. In this case, I would require to go from injured to wounded and roll another d6 and hopefully beat, I did, 3. And now when I beat that negative, I would be now wounded. And wounded is basically injured but worse. Now I would have -2 to everything. And finally, if I wouldn't be able with this 2d6 to soak all the damage that would go over, or I have taken a wounded condition already and then I would again take damage, then I would be beaten, dead, or something like that. The rules say that whatever the GM determines fits into that narrative. With solo, this is also a really good tool that you could like still roll an oracle table to see what happens. So this system does a lot of things. It makes the health as a resource that you want to use, which is really good. It gives you different tiers of like death, so it is not just like game over when you reach 0, which is usually really unbeneficial in solo games, especially if you want to play lone wolf characters. So at the same time, this system gives us the possibility to take down that unnecessary HP bloat, but also gives us still the survivability that we need for solo games. Really fancy, I love this. This basically fixes the game for me. And finally, how did I address the HP bloat itself is, well, as rules as written, characters would get a base amount of HP depending on their class. They would add their constitution to that and also roll a d6. For example, if you want to play like a warrior who has base HP of 30, plus constitution would be at least 2 as a warrior, and then you would have the average from d6 is 4, so you would have plus 6. So while starting, warriors would start with 36 points of health, that is pretty decent amount of health already. But what is the problem? Characters will receive through every level their constitution attribute worth of health plus d6 from 1 to 10 levels. So on average you get plus 4 from the dice rolls, which is already 40 hit points. Into that you add constitution, which is for warrior would be at least 2, but you probably are gonna raise that up during the levels because you usually raise your attributes. But let's be generous, let's say that it's the 2 throughout. So that would be from 1 to 10, at least 60 more HP. So at level 10, warrior would have around 100 HP, roughly. And it doesn't stop there. Then you have levels from 10 to 20, which, to be fair, you only get your constitution modifier. But with warriors, you would have probably at least risen that your constitution to 3 at that point. So you would get from from 10 to 20 additional 30 hit points. So yeah, a lot of hit points and health. And we also need to take into account that warriors are the class that uses the most heaviest of the armor, which means that they gain like blade mails that offer them like 8 damage reduction for each turn. So yeah, they are big sponges of health. So yeah, not a fan of this bloat. So here is my custom rules on how to deal with HP. And I did 2 different bases, and then I added different kinds of modifiers that you can mix and match yourself to find the best HP balance that fits your game. For example, if you want to play really gritty, dark fantasy game where life is cheap and characters are weak, you would just go with class base plus 5 plus constitution minimum of 1 and plus level, and that's it. No multipliers. As a warrior, you would start out with, let's say, with that plus 2 constitution. You would start with 35 plus 2 would be 37, 37 plus 1. You would start with 38 points of health, which is, to be fair, that is bigger amount than starting out characters in FantasyAGE as raw, but your health would only rise through your levels, so you would basically passively gain only 1 HP per each level. You could also bring up your constitution, which you probably will bring up to somewhere between 3 to 5. So let's say you bring it up to 5 even. You want to be like this really beefy tanky warrior. So then by level 10 you probably would have something like 40, even maybe around 50 points of health, and with full level you would have 60 points of health, which is still twice as much health as you would have at level 1. And that is the grittier version. And if you want to be more heroic, just add plus 10 to your base, and otherwise it's the same. But with level progression you can add different multipliers. One could be that you will add 1.5 times your level during leveling up. This would mean practically during levels from 1 to 10 you would add +2 to your health, and when you reach level 10 and go up you would only gain +1 per each level health. And other multiplier, if that feels like that is too much, you can just add that you get twice amount of HP from Constitution if you really want to beef up and make that Constitution attribute really valuable. So then if you would beef up your Constitution to, let's say, 4, then you would have 8 additional health. So overall, not that much HP either, but definitely beefier characters than you would get with Gritty. But having lower hit points now are not that fatal because of the Fortune optional rule that you can still take out some extra damage and go to the negatives before you like really get out of the game. And you still have your healing, you have different healing spells, you have different recoveries, so it like this game gives you health all of the time as well. But I think that is enough for me yapping about the system. Let's now actually jump right into the demonstration part of the video, where Takino and Valanor are going into the Tower of Secrets. Last time during our demo adventure across the Trial Lands, our two main heroes, Takino and Valanor, was tasked to go into the secret forest, where they also knew that the Tower of Secrets was somewhere hidden. And what we found out during our adventure was that the creature itself was not a natural occurrence in the forest. It was summoned there by someone wicked and someone with not good intentions. And this mysterious ethereal sound lured Valanor and Takino deeper and deeper into the forest, until they were transported through this kind of magical portal into the root of this very unnerving looking tower, with animated household objects just moving around like it would be Beauty and the Beast. And in the yard of this tower they also fought and slayed this beast. And after the fight they were transported out of the forest. But now Takino and Valanor have returned into the forest, and they have rediscovered the Tower of Secrets. Both of them are slowly crouching closer and closer into the tower, and Takino says to Valanor, "The citizens of Dawnbreeze will not be safe until we have dealt with this mysterious wicked power that lives inside this tower. Valanor, are you prepared?" I mean, would it change anything if I said no? Takino just rolls his eyes and says, "Okay, come on now," and slowly and stealthily starts to approach the tower. And we could actually make our first roll. I will just say Takino is taking the lead of making this stealth roll, so Takino will also be the one. I won't give Takino any bonuses or minuses, just plain out stealth roll to see how sneakily he can lead them both close to the tower. I think you use dexterity as a stealth attribute in this game, so we will use dexterity. So 3d6, and let's try to sneak in. Oh, perfect! I didn't say difficulty, but I was thinking about average difficulty of 11. Usually if I don't state anything, I will use the basic of 11, and if it's more easier or difficult, then I will up or lower it down. So now we actually got doubles here, and that is 11 already, plus our 1 from dexterity, so it's 12. So we succeed and we get 5 stunt points. So now we can actually see from the basic exploration stunts to see if there is some kind of stunt we could do. So when we got 5 stunt points, I will use 3 of them to wariness, which means now when we are closing in, sneaking in, when we are doing a perception check, we get +3 to that roll. And also we were very efficient So it will take us half of the time. So Valanor and Takino both very sneakily slide down and go from tree to tree, behind the tree, and go closer to the tower. So I wanted to create something special for today's episode, so I actually made a battle map using Dungeon Draft. It's a really handy app overall, not sponsored or anything like that, but I will still leave a link down below because I think it's quite handy if you want to check it out. Valanor and Takino both go somewhere here onto the side. Now we will probably need to know what is inside this room before we start to do any investigation with these two, if they are able to discern the nature of the thing that is inside that room. So I'm borrowing the room content table from Worlds Without Number, and it normally uses D8, but the final one was 7 and 8 empty, and that is boring, so we don't have to use that. And now it's only a D6 table, so we can use our D6 as well. So I will roll 2 dice. The red one is the contents, and the black one is the fact that if there is any treasure. So let's see. The main hall. What awaits us? 3. Some kind of hazard. And 5 means there is no treasure. What is the nature of this hazard in here? So we have these broken tables and benches. We have this weird sacrificial table in the corner, and then we also have this portal in here. So some kind of hazard. Let's see if Mythic GM Emulator 2 can help us to determine that. So we have the dungeon trap table over here. So first we could actually roll from the oracle to see if it's a trap or just some kind of other hazard. So we have the no chaos chart table here, 50-50. If it's under, it's some kind of trap, and if it's over, then it's just some kind of hazard that is happening over there. 0-0. So that means extreme no. So definitely it is not a trap. It could actually be something that is harmful for our enemy right now. So let's roll the dungeon trap and see 2 aspects, what kind of thing it is over there. 5. Animate. 73. Animate pain. Okay. My idea for the tower was that it wasn't a location that belonged to the now occupying force, but it was this kind of big hall that belonged to a civilization that lived within this forest. With the idea that we have a benefit for our hearing, and now with the extreme no, I don't even roll to see if we hear. Takino and Valanor can hear basically these echoing help us, echoing from the halls of this place. So I think the room contains these undead spirits of the dead occupants who were probably killed while this old house was taken over by the now occupying force. Valanor and Takino are looking at each other, and especially Valanor asks from Takino, how should we approach this? I mean, they sound like they are in pain. Maybe we should try to talk to them. But these are tormented spirits. We don't know how they will act. Okay, that's fine then. You probably then brought your sword that can cut through ghosts, right? I mean, I have a sword, my sword that I always carry with me. And I think Valanor is like, yeah, I don't think that will cut it. Like, literally, that won't cut it. Okay, let's try to just go in and let's try to communicate with them, because they are sounding like they are in agony. When dealing with spirits, you should probably try to hear what they are trying to tell you. So if you have ghosts that say like, leave and never come back, then you should probably leave and never come back. And then when you have ghosts that say, help me, then you should probably try to help them. Fine, Valanor, take the lead. But remember, I did warn you. Perfect, let's go. And I think they both will now carefully cross this creaking old stairs of wood and come into this front door. And I don't think the door is locked, so they can just open the door and just go in. And my first question is, will these ghosts even react to these two? Because we got extreme no on the hazard side, that it is very hazardous to the occupying force, but not necessarily to this one who doesn't have anything to do with it. Let's roll a dice. And I would say it's likely that these ghosts won't do anything to them, or even they won't even react to them. And that is 20, meaning no, they won't even react to these two when they are going in. They just keep on going from wall to wall and just floating around the broken tables and being like, and both of them just keep carefully walking past the coasts and just try to take a deep breath. From the back of the room, they find a portal that is activated, which seems very similar to the one that they went in the first time when they were warped into this vicinity of the tower. I don't think we have time right now to determine where this portal goes, and there is no guarantee that we can return from the same portal if we go through, so let's just keep going. Agreed. Oh, what's there? And there lies horrifying visage. There is like dead animals, dead snakes, blood, nails, and there's a lot of things that you would use in this kind of dark magic rituals. Valanor is well versed with arcane law, so let's make a check to see if Valanor can discern the nature of in what purpose these ingredients have been used, or at least if they have at least a hint of what is happening with these ingredients. So, arcane law, our intelligence is 3. Now we have the focus of arcane law, so that means we get +2 to this roll. So these 3 +5. And these are old ingredients. I would say that this is even a little bit harder difficulty. This is not just your basic, it's difficult to discern exact nature of just from ingredients alone. So I will definitely bump this to 13. And now we can also think about the effect of this roll, which we can also use the stunt die. So even though we wouldn't even roll doubles, the stunt die can also determine the effectiveness of the roll. So if we roll with 1, it means it's kind of low, so we don't get a lot of information, and if it's 6, it means we get a lot of information. It's really handy when you are rolling 3 dice. You can do so much different things and variations with that many dice. Let's go. Ooh, that is nice. 5, 6, and 13. Definitely over 13. And our effectiveness was 5, so pretty well. I think Valanor can definitely discern that these are used in a more sacrificial type of magic, and also this kind of corrupted combination of nature magic and this kind of blood death magic. And Valanor starts to kind of like feel the dark magical power that surrounds this place. And Valanor also gets this unnerving feeling that this whole tower is alive somehow. And both of them even start to like suddenly feel like, oh, was this wall moving? Oh, no, that can't be it, right? Right? And they have a feeling that something really eerie is happening in this tower right now. And Valanor just comes out of the table like, okay, I'm done with the table. Should we now go to the next floor? Certainly, I'll lead the way. And they both will carefully go into the next floor. And will they try to... They have been sneaking quite well so far, so I think we will do another stealth roll to see how well they are able to sneak into the next floor. Takino can take a lead on this one. So dexterity, only +1. Here we go. And let's still keep it on the average. Decent. So 11 plus 3 is 14 in itself. So definitely a success. They arrive into the second floor and they can see like the stairs still going up and up. But I think they feel like they should inspect this floor before they continue up. Because they don't want to miss anything. That could maybe give them some leads on what kind of evil lurks in the tower. First, let's roll the content for this floor. D6, here we go. Oh, again 2 dice. Treasure die and the content die. Here we go. 2, it's a creature. Oh no. And 1, yes, there is a treasure. So what kind of creature is in the second floor? So we have this kind of corrupted second floor of the mansion, which is full of these corrupted living vines. And then we have this sacrilegious ritual circle and also a sacrifice in the middle of it. One of those things will gonna come to life. Either the tower and the vines that comes to life, or this mummified subject in here will come to life. 50-50. Let's roll D100 again. If it's yes, it's going to be the vines, and if it's no, it's going to be the mummy. And that is 88. And we don't do random events right now with the mythic because we are just focusing on the system. But 88 is no, so the mummy will come to life. So FantasyAGE itself has quite a good selection of different creatures and monsters, especially if you opt out to buy the bestiary book as well. I mean, the core book also has some creatures, and it gives you not the best tools possible, but it also gives you a lot of tools how you can vary and modify these creatures. But like, I usually don't really like that companies put out like multiple books to even play the game, but they get a slight pass on this one because the core book does contain some creatures and a way to vary them. But I acquired the creature book, and here we are going to use a stat block which is basically the Slenderman. I have to say, FantasyAGE's monster selection is really fun. It has like all the classics, but a little bit more modified, and also like some interesting stuff as well. So it is a very general system, but it's general in that sense that you can really bring the system to life. It really is just like very classical fantasy system that has enough flavor for the mechanics, but enough like general that you can actually make your own homebrew world with it. So the art from the actual book was kind of cool, from the Beast book, so I'm gonna use that one now. But we don't know yet if it's hostile or not. I think these two come to the second floor, and as they are making their way and having a little bit more look around, they can feel the tower like pumping some dark power surrounding the area. Basically, like all those roots look like veins that are pumping in this dark energy, and it really starts to look like they are inside of some kind of living being. And this dark energy pumps into the corpse in the center of this ritual, and it's rises from the ground and basically starts to float in the middle of the floor and slowly turns to face these two. Valanor just tries to say, "We are only here for the master. If you don't have a specific soft spot for whoever that may be, please let us through and we can accept each other's existence." It is a creature made out of dark energy that we have now established. But we don't know the motivation or how this magic has affected into the corpse. So I will make this a communication roll, which is going to be definitely difficult. It's going to be 13. So we can see if they are even in speaking terms with each other. So our communication is 2, which is not terrible. We could also try to use empathy. You can sense the emotions of others. If you succeed, you know the feelings and mood of one subject you can see. This grants you a +2 bonus on communication tests with that subject. Additionally, you know when the subject directly lies to you, although you do not detect half-truths or lies of omission. Let's try this. So Valanor starts to slowly just cast the spell while starting the communication with the creature. Oh, and we have to test the subject's self-discipline versus our spell power. Interesting. Okay, let's see if we can even cast this. It's going to cost us 2 magic points. So now we have used 2 of them. And we have to roll 9. Oh, that is so close, but we succeed. It becomes 6 from here, and then we add our intellect, which is +2. So dice gave us 9, so it will be 11. So now we will test the creature's self-discipline versus our spell power. And our spell power is 10 plus our willpower plus our possible focuses that we might have. Valanor is an elementalist, so that means this spell power is only 13. 10 plus our willpower. And that is the score that this undead abomination has now beat. And it actually has a focus on it. It is very strong with this one. Okay, so it's going to be 7. +7 to this roll. Oh, anti-magical. A thin man's very existence twists and repels magic. It has a +2 bonus to resist spells. So we add +2 to that, so it's going to be +9. So we have to roll really poorly in order. Oh! But is it still? It's 4. 1, 1, and 2. 9 plus 4 is 30. It's still just enough. It's still just enough. We would have needed to roll 1, 1, 1. Oh, too bad. Valanor is trying to cast a spell and also whispers to Takino. This creature, it rebels magic. What say you, oh creature of night? We don't have any beef with you, so maybe we just let you be and float around. Yeah, definitely it's going to be 13. No bonuses. Communication check. Let's see how this goes. Now, okay, that would be, if we succeed, that would be a stunt. But I don't think we will. That is 8 plus 2. That is 10. We need 13. Oh. I'm going to pay with my fortune points now. I'm going to pay I need to pay 5. Oof. That is a lot of... We have to do it. Let's do it. So 5 fortune points that I will make that 2 become 5. So now it's exactly the amount that we need for this roll to succeed. So I think they can see this creature's tendrils going onto these different walls and basically starting to suck these roots and suck that dark energy in. With greed and gluttony, it just stays still in the middle of the ring, floating in the air, and its tendrils drinking this dark energy from these roots. And right now it seems to be more focused on making itself powerful. Valanor and Takino have a feeling that this might be a problem later, but it's not a problem right now, so they can just keep going upstairs. These two will quickly and carefully just... There was treasure in the room, but they won't risk it, and they just keep going upstairs, and they will take this victory. And now they will come into the 3rd floor, which looks like there is this big fire, and the floor is covered in this kind of weird, corruptive, foul-smelling mug. And now we definitely want to know the contents and if there is any treasure. The contents is 2. There is a creature again, and there is no treasure. So a creature with goo, wonderful. So actually I had something else in mind, but when I was looking through the FantasyAGE bestiary, I found something even more amazing. So props, I'm really slowly starting to like the book because it has actually some really interesting, nice creatures. So these two are slowly walking into the 3rd floor. They can also hear from the left this kind of very unnerving feasting sound. And what they can see is this moth kind of creature in the nest right now, eating what looks like to be a person. And right now I would say it is occupied with its food. These two have 1 stealth check to be made. And they are coming really close, so I would say this is difficult. So this is going to be 13. And I think Valanor is taking the lead again. So with the massive +1, let's see what happens. Okay. And we are rolling well, but it might not be enough. So we have 5, 6, 11, and +2 is 13, +1 is 14. We barely made it. Oh, Takino is a stealth master. This moth humanoid is feasting on this body right on its nest, and they can see also these small little eggs that this moth creature is also protecting under the nest. Both of them just keep slowly going forward, and Takino is just for Valanor. And even with the slightly screeching stairs, they are able to just keep going into the next floor. This has been smooth sailing until this point. We have managed to overcome so many troubles with just walking, which I prefer, which is really preferable. And the 4th floor looks to be this kind of very classical study. They can see this entity's cauldron which spills out this kind of red liquid, and they can see the tower's vines actually going into the cauldron and sucking the liquid inside the cauldron. Whoever lives here is also feeding the tower. What kind of troubles await in this floor? Oh, it's gonna be fun for these two to get back down. Content, treasure. 2 again! And 4. So there's no treasure, but there is a creature. So this freaking tower is one big zoo, I guess. We have been going so stealthily. It might be even possible that the owner of this tower and the dark force that these two have been fighting don't even know that these two are at the tower right now. So I will roll an oracle to see if the owner of this tower is actually on this floor, because my original idea was that they were at least on the final floor. But they could be here working on something, because if they don't feel like there is any enemies or any threats, they could be on the different floor as well. I think it's even likely that this entity is on this floor. Let's roll for it. That is 0.9. That means 9%, so extreme yes. But is this positive for us or for the thing? I would say not only was the owner here, but it also they are really occupied whatever they are doing, because we were able to come here so stealthily, so we actually have an upper hand. So what Takino and Valanor are able to see, they can see the backside of this kind of tall individual who seems to be focused on the book on the table. With closer inspection and with enough light in this room, they can see that this person seems like they are some kind of doll or marionette. It doesn't seem like a person made out of flesh and blood, but from woods and vines. What will these two do? Will they try to negotiate with this marionette's evil, corrupted power? It really, with all this corruption and all those helpless souls on the bottom of this tower, these two have an idea that this is an entity that cannot be bargained with. Or at least it is not a bargain that they are ready to accept. This entity has killed before. This entity has tried to kill them and has also been playing with them already. So I think they both feel like there is only one option left, and that is to fight. So there are not exactly clear rules for surprise, but there is this circumstance modifier, and there is that you get +3 for attack roll when the enemy or the target of this attack is unaware of the attack coming. So I won't roll initiative, but I will let these two both go first in the initiative, and then roll a stealth roll and try to get behind this enemy and see if they can get a hit in. Okay, I added some stats for this doll witch, I guess. And yeah, we don't need initiative because now we know that these two both go first and then this doll, because we managed to get behind it. I think Takino will try to go first and sneak in and get a good hit in. I would say it's average roll, because it is squeaky, screechy, like difficult to get that close, but we also established that this thing is occupied with the book and stuff. So it will be A roll of 11. Here we go. Can Takino sneak behind? No! Here we go. Oh, looking good, looking good. That is going to be at least a stunt, which we love. So that is 12 plus 1, which is 13. So even if it would have been 13, we would succeed. So Takino slowly takes his sword from his back, gets closer and closer. Alright, will these roots try to protect? They definitely try to do that. So when Takino is getting closer, the roots will try to like take a hold of Takino. And Takino has to move fast and dexterously and try to get a hit in. So now Takino has to do one more roll, which will going to be dexterity to try to evade the roots. But we got stunned and we have 3 stunt points. And we can spend the 3 points to wariness, so we can get +3 to this evasion roll, which is really good because our dexterity is only 1. So now we get +4 to this upcoming roll. Because Takino was really focused. He was able to see from his corner of his eye that these roots were trying to get to him. So he takes it a little bit farther from here and still try to reach the doll witch before these roots get a hold of him. So +4. Ooh, that would be a double as well, but that it's not going to be enough. It was average. 11. 7 plus 4 is 11. It is exactly 11. Oh, okay. So we managed to do this, and we get another 3 stunt points. So we can use also those 3 points to make an assist. So actually, Valanor is able to dodge out of the way so well into this side that it will leave a clean shot for Valanor to cast any possible spell. So Valanor will get a +3 on their first action. Doll starts to turn, but Takino is already behind the doll and takes this wide swing sideways and makes his first attack against the doll witch. And the living doll's defense is 12, so we have to beat 12. And Takino has his sword, or the Blade of Masters, and it is a bastard sword in this game, which it gives us +4 to the roll, and we will deal 2d6 +3 damage if we succeed. So we have to beat 12. And I think we do. We don't get any... Would I want to spend fortune on this? I will. We won't get this kind of chance again. I will spend 5 fortune points to make this 2 a 5. So then we have 5, 5 and 3. So it will be a successful attack with 3 stunt points. Now we can go to the combat stunts. And because we are a warrior, we can spend 1 less stunt point to get what we want. We will use 1 stunt point to deal Mighty Blow. We will get 1d6 additional damage to this. And we will also do a defensive stance after that. So we will get +4 to our defense until the beginning of our next turn. So Takino will hit with this side swipe and cleave cleanly in the middle of this doll witch. 3d6 +3 damage. Whew. That is a lot of damage. 9, 10 +3 is 13 points of damage. An armor rating of 2 will reduce that to 11, but oh lord, that was a huge hit from Takino from the beginning. And also Takino is taking defensive stance when the doll which is like starting to shake erratically. And Takino also shouts, "Valanor, now!" And Valanor has been preparing a spell and now casts it, trying to hit this doll. So I think Valanor will just start out with basic arcane blast. And we now get +3 to this, thanks to Takino's amazing rolls. So that means it will be +6 to hit 12. Oh, and we definitely hit. That is 5, 6. We don't get instant points, but we'll accept this. We will deal 1d6 +3 damage. Valanor has prepared their offensive spell and sends it away, dealing 1 +3, so and -2, so only 2 damage. So the creature was now aware of the situation and basically sees the blast coming and is able to quickly make this kind of unnatural dodge move that it only scrapes it. Now its turn, and I think it will try to do Steal Life Death spell. It has intelligence of 3, so it will get +3 to this roll, but it's 15. This is really difficult spell, but if it succeeds, it's gonna be quite horrendous ride for Takino. Oh no! Oh no! That is a stunt. 14 and +3, so the creature succeeds in the roll. What spell stunts it will use? If the spell does damage, one target of spell of your choice takes an extra d6. Increase spell power of your spell by 1 per stunt point spent. We have 6 points. So the creature will take a powerful casting and also magic shield around it, because it sees that it is now cornered. So it tries to defend itself. So it gets a +2 bonus to its form, and also it is 3 steps harder to try to resist this spell. Which means Takino has to make a Constitution stamina check and try to save against 13 +3, 16. Ooh! So luckily we have +3 to the roll, but I think we have to spend some fortune for this one. Yep, we need... it's 10. So how much we need? So it's +3. We have 13 now. We need 3 more. We need to change it to 5. And I will do that, because trust me, whatever is coming from that spell, it's more horrendous than just taking this. And this is what I also really enjoy about the fortune system. Even in combat, like every save matters, and you can wiggle out from the most horrendous, doomifying things, but it always costs you something. You never get anything for free. So it's, even though like you can spend fortune to ignore harm, fortune is also your HP, so it creates you harm as well. So yeah, fortune is really good. It's really good. I really enjoy it. It's all about spending resources all of the time, and the fact that you can use fortune to like dodge out of this kind of very horrifying attacks. That means you don't need that much hit points. So for some miracle, Takino is able to withstand the pain and stop the creature from sucking the life force out of him. And we go into the next round. But Takino can now also see the roots from the wall are gathering around this doll creature and is basically making this kind of defensive shield around it. Takino says to Valanor like, "Valanor, I need you here," and tries to make another attack with his sword. Here we go. Oh, that is not going to be enough. I don't think so. Against 14 plus 4, 8, 11. It's not gonna cut it. Valanor is trying to find a good place to hit the sword in. But this new defensive shield is blocking the attack. And I think Valanor, for their turn, is getting closer in here and just shouts, "Take this!" and just sends from the ground these icy spikes towards this doll. So Valanor will use their Ice Knives spell. It will cost 4 magic points, so we are used 6 of them, and we need 11 to succeed. And that is going to succeed, and that is 12 from the dice already. No stun points. The creature must make an acrobatics save to try to dodge out of the way, or take 1d6 plus willpower damage. And on a successful test, they will take amount of willpower, so at least 3 damage is going to be made. What is this living doll's acrobatics? It is quite good at it. Well, that is not surprising, so plus 4 to this roll against our spell power, which is now speciality, now focus included, so that means 13, because 10 plus our willpower, 3 plus 2, which is our focus now, so 15. Oof. And I don't think that is enough. 8, 11 plus 4, it's just 15. It just manages to get out of the way. So just willpower amount of ice damage, which is 1 again, because it was 3 damage and then armor reduced it to 1. The doll creature dodges into the side and takes hold of the wall, and then they can hear this laugh again that they heard in the forest. And now the roots start to come to life and try to wrap around these two. And the creature is using its ensnaring roots spell. Let's see. Definitely success, that is 12. No stunts. So the area of the spell is going to be around here. It's actually not that wide, it was 4 times 4, so it's around that space. So the creature is trying to ensnare Takino into this corner and tries to get away around here into the next of the cauldron. No, I think it has an idea. It will try to run upstairs. And now it's back to Takino's turn, and now Takino has to make their minor action. So in this game, we haven't even talked about this yet. In this game you have major actions and minor action. In each round you can move, make a minor action and make a major action, or make 2 minor actions. Minor actions include most of the time things like reloading or aiming or dashing or something like that. And major actions are your spell casting attacks and all that stuff. And also some talents might include some different actions to either one of those actions. So the creature's spell power was 13, and now we have to make a might test using Takino's minor action to see if Takino can break free from the roots. So we don't have might focus, we only have strength, so we will add +2 to this roll. Ooh! And that is definitely a success. So Takino will break free from the roots and run after the witch and make an attack. This would hit. Now I would get a very good amount of stunt points. Do I want to use... because the witch doesn't have its protection anymore. So I would only have to spend 3 points to make that 4 a 3. So I would basically get less, but it would be still enough, and I would get a stunt points. And I will probably do that. I will use up Takino's fortune again. That we will get the +5 stunt point benefit. We have 5 stunt points, and as a warrior we can use 4 of them to make a lethal blow. We get 2d6 more damage in this roll. So that means we will roll 4d6. And I will even make it appears armor, so we don't even take that nasty armor penalty. Takino runs behind the doll witch, and I think for a second Takino can see basically a spot where the doll's ligaments are basically like exposing a weak spot, which is not the wound, but it seems to be like the inner workings of this doll, and there is this kind of thread, pumping thread that is holding the doll together. And Takino focuses and finds the spot and makes this diagonal slash into that spot, completely ignoring armor and making a fatal blow into this creature itself. So it would be 4d6. I actually need 1d6 more. 4d6 of damage. Oh no! 10, 20, 23 points of damage, and no armor is reduced. The creature is almost taken out. 23. That means it leaves only 3 points of damage. The doll is basically almost collapsing in itself, and Takino just shouts to Valanor, "Now's your chance, Valanor!" And Valanor will make one more arcane blast against this creature. And it is 12 to hit. We get again a stunt, so we can use now spelled stunts. And 10 plus Valanor's 3 is 13, so it definitely hits. Oh, that would be so cool. We have 4 points, and again we can also lower down the cost by 1. So I will cast battle magic, so we can cast actually additional bolt after this one, if this is not enough to take down the creature. And also we will pump the spell up with mighty spell and add an extra d6 into the damage. So now against the creature 2d6 plus 3 damage, and we only need to make 3. Here we go. This might be it. 4 and 4 plus 3 is definitely, that is enough. The doll is almost breaking down and trying to escape into the final floor, but Valanor runs from the side and it just basically jumps and Max Payne style just throws the final arcane blast, and this doll creature basically explodes into many different doll pieces and just scatters into the wall, and the conflict is over for now. Both are taking deep breaths. Is it over? Maybe. I don't know. Looking at each other with more questions in mind. The doll witch is down, and they look around them and they see that the tower is still alive. Takino turns to Valanor, says, "I don't think we're done here yet." And that's where we can end today, this Fantasy Age tutorial. Yeah, we can continue here for the next time. We still have one floor to go. And I have to say, we were extremely lucky. We were extremely lucky that we happened to find the doll witch creature on this floor, because I had an idea what could happen if they were on the higher floor. And I think you can see that in our next How It Plays when we are taking a different system, and these two are probably still exploring this tower around and trying to find out how to end this corruption within the tower, definitely. And I think we will use Scarlet Heroes in our next episode. I have to say, I really dig the fortune, basically as an HP and as an usable resource, because it feels really good that you can be a little bit more in control of when the stunts will happen. Like, big thumbs up for it. And it creates these situations where you are still always paying with your HP, and you can get into like, yes, you can make the stunt for yourself, but if the next time you get a big hit in yourself, you are screwed, because you have to keep using those fortune points, and it will come bite you in the butt at some point. But I think, and especially combined with the lesser HP, I think it's a wonderful combination of having really finite resources of the fortune, but still having characters that are a little bit more enduring. So yeah, definitely the fortune optional rule that came with the second edition. I really enjoy the dynamic, and it's really easy to create these narrations either as a game master, either as a player, or either as a solo player, to have these very intense, interesting combats. Like, I know it looked like we didn't take any like damage, but the creature almost hit us with the Steal Life spell, and that would have created 3d6 plus willpower of penetrating damage. It would have gone straight through to Takino's defenses, and it would have regained one-on-one basis more life from Takino. So yeah, and when target reduced to health 0, they die. Like, it is brutal. So yeah, we were able to use the fortune to not go there. So that was really good. So yeah, huge thumbs up for FantasyAGE. It definitely surprised me on a positive note, and this might be a system that I want to try out with my core group as well. Not only for solo play, which it's really good for that as well. Yeah, there's so many good games. I would love to play all of these for eternity. But that's nice. You have options, definitely. And definitely, if you are a player who wants to have this kind of a little bit more crunchier, heroic fantasy, but you wouldn't necessarily want to use D&D 5th edition or Pathfinder, because those are very focused on the individual characters. This is a little bit more loose on that, and also it offers you so much, like these variable action rolls as well. Hopefully this video was informative to you, and you have now a little bit better idea if FantasyAGE 2nd edition would be for you. Affiliate links are down below if you are interested. That's all from me today, and hope I see you next time. For now, it's moro moro.